More people than you would expect are having their most honest conversations with a chatbot. Not because the AI is particularly wise, but because it doesn't judge, it's available at 2 a.m., and it doesn't have its own baggage. The question isn't whether this is weird, it's whether this is useful, and whether it's a bridge to something better or just a more comfortable way to stay stuck. Today, we'll talk about this with our guest, Emma Klint. She's been sharing her own experiences, as she says in her blog, Overthinking Out Loud, using AI for everything from recipes to content creation to trying to understand her own relationship with her own feelings and her brain. That's the focus of today's Brobots. This is the podcast that tries to help you be a better human by being smarter about how you use technology. Emma, thanks so much for doing this. I've been looking forward to chatting with you. I love what you write on Substack. It's a lot of fun to follow along with your sort of, as you call it, overthinking out loud. One of the topics that you wrote about that near and dear to my heart as someone who does struggle with mental health, with depression and anxiety issues. You wrote about how you're using this tool to work with your anxiety issues. So I want to kind of open it up there and have you share, if you don't mind, share a little bit how you are using these tools to work with your anxiety.
I mean, I realized in hindsight that I actually use it as exposure therapy of some sort, but accidental. I had this realization at some point in a conversation that I kept writing, I don't know, like over and over again, because I didn't have the answer. And at that point, I realized, oh, I'm actually exposing myself to this very uncomfortable question. So when I started using AI, it was mostly for this like basic stuff, just exploring. So, recipes was a big one. All sorts of like home repair, like learning. Basically, I used it instead of Google. And then at some point, I started having like this longer conversations and really digging into what do I want to do with my career? Where do I want to work? What do I want to do? Yeah, the conversation just kept going because I had so many thoughts to share with it. And at some point, I just realized that I had been exposing myself to this, like to saying I don't know multiple times.
The term "I don't know" is something that you used to sort of have like a negative label on, and you've
Yeah.
sort of adjusted that through these conversations.
Yeah, exactly. So at some point, I realized that I've been saying I don't know so many times that it stopped being a negative term. It was neutral. It used to mean that I was unsure or maybe not competent enough. And then at some point, it just meant, I don't know, maybe this is like the start of a conversation. It's something to figure out instead of being afraid of.
I think that's one of the things that is
Mm,
so attractive to so many people about it, especially people that
mm,
are trying to sort out mental health issues, is that it is very much a judgment-free space. It's a place where you
mm,
can say, "I don't know." You can say, "I feel this way and I don't know why. I feel this way and I wish I didn't." And you don't have to worry about what is the other. Even in therapy, sometimes I think my
mm.
therapist is looking at me going, like, "Are you need to be here really badly. What's wrong with you?" And when it is a faceless robot, it's kind of
Mm,
a safe place to explore and as you said, like
yeah.
test things out and see what happens. And like even the recipe, it's funny you mentioned that. I posted recently a picture of my completely messy cabinet pantry and needed a
Mm,
recipe, and I never in a million years would have put together what AI put together for me in 10
mm,
seconds based on a photograph of my messy pantry. So I mean,
mm,
being able to sort of express or share, like, help me make sense of the chaos that is either my pantry or my
mm,
thoughts. It's a really safe, safe in air quotes, interesting way to experiment with all of that.
mm. Yeah, and I think to me, it was a lot about actually saying it and not about the response. So just expressing myself, saying these things, allowing myself to explore this, and just skimming what I got back. It wasn't that important. Maybe I read the final question and decided what thread to continue with. But I mean, I didn't really pay attention to all the reassuring and, oh, you're doing great.
Right.
Like, I didn't pay attention to that at all. It was just like,
Yeah.
okay, this is the topic I want to continue with.
Yeah. It
Um,
sounds like it gave you a way to name your feelings and to
mm,
express your experience in a way that you didn't feel like you were being judged, but you still felt like you were telling something and you still got a
Yeah,
response, which is huge.
exactly.
I mean, yeah.
And I kept going. So I like to talk about this as a journal that writes back.
Yeah.
So it's a place where I just dump everything, and I get some very smart responses about how to continue thinking about it.
I was exactly going to ask about that, because
Mm,
I've used it that way myself, where
mm,
the blank page of the journal is often overwhelming, of like,
mm,
what am I really writing here, and for
mm,
what purpose? And I'll write in journals, various online or paper or whatever, and it just goes away, and I don't ever look at it again unless there's a setting that makes it pop up the next year on the same day, and like kind of review, oh, that's where I was. And there are
mm,
people, I think, that have much better journaling practices than I do, and use it much more efficiently.
mm,
But I'm very drawn to conversation, as we have here on the podcast. I
mm,
like to be able to say something and have the response make me think of something else, and make me see it another
mm.
way, or make me explore it even deeper. And that's it sounds like that's has been your experience as well. Is it just sort of keeps you thinking about the thing out loud in a way that helps you
Mm.
start to make sense of it, and make those thoughts more useful, rather than just sort of noise in your head.
Exactly. And I never thought of this before until you said that, but because I used to have this journal, an app where I put in like every day, I used to answer the same questions every day. So that was a conversation with myself in my journal that I could go back in time and see what I wrote about last month, last year. So it's the same purpose, really.
Something else you've written about that I find interesting is AI critics that think using it
Mhm.
is cheating in one way
Mm,
or another. I am cheating, right? I mean, I write dozens of emails every day, and
mm,
now robots write them for the most part for me.
mm,
A lot of the written content that we share online is based on the transcripts of these conversations that AI helps me craft into blogs, newsletters, things like that. That of course we tweak a little bit, and add a little bit more humanity to
mm,
them. But all of that is stuff that I did not do before. I did not share in those ways, because I don't have a brain that allows me to sit down and write. Like, even typing,
mm,
I don't type as fast as my brain moves, and it makes me crazy. I want to be able to just do everything voice to text.
mm,
So these sort of shortcuts are cheating, again, air quotes.
mm.
But they're also allowing us to, I think, express and share things that we otherwise wouldn't, because of those sorts of limitations.
Yeah, absolutely. This is like the biggest question I keep having conversations about. Where do we draw the line for what's allowed? That's what got me into like the Substack discussions with other people as well, because I kept seeing people saying that you're not allowed to use AI for writing because then you lose your authentic voice. I was like, but I don't have an authentic voice because I've never written before. Like,
Right.
I, so I have nothing to lose here. That's really what it felt, so like a one-sided conversation saying this is the right way to use it when you have no idea what purpose other people are using it for. So like I said, to me, it's a whole lot about externalizing my thoughts. And if I do that using AI to write, then you can just choose not to read it. So like I've talked to so many people saying that AI helped them because of various reasons, and if someone is native in English and have like an academic degree or whatever, and are used to writing and talking in front of people, they have an advantage that a lot of people don't have. So if we're using AI to sort of augment ourselves, why not to join the conversation? I think I don't see the problem.
Along the lines of actually using AI to do, I guess, personal self-discovery and kind of an
Hmm.
investigation and trying to know thyself. So, I mean,
Mm,
as I guess as a philosophical companion
mm,
to try to understand what life is about and the meaning of different questions, and then getting into our own deeper interpersonal experiences around anxiety and control and trauma and all those other pieces.
mm,
Are you finding that the AI is is actually giving you good advice? Like when you talk through things, do you think the advice that it's giving you is good, or do you think just being able to name how you're feeling is the real
Mm.
benefit?
I think I get some good advice sometimes I use a few different LLMs for different purposes, and the ones I've been using the most that has most memory of me, I think, give the best advice. I mean, the first post I wrote was about using my gut feeling, very unacademically. The story here was that I brain dumped like, this is everything I want to do. Pick for me.
Yeah.
So I have this list of stuff that I can do. Can you make a decision which one I should address now? And it gave some suggestion, and I immediately felt like, no, I don't want to do this. This is not. And then all of a sudden, I knew what I actually wanted to do from that list. I just needed like some kind of feedback, some kind of input to realize that myself.
No, that's great. I mean, and that's the thing is that, I mean, a lot of people go into these tool sets thinking that they're actually getting
Mm,
good information or good advice out of it, and they're not able to
mm,
be discerning enough to figure out if this thing is actually good or bad, because it's programmed to be a cheerleader.
yeah.
Um, and with ChatGPT 5, there's a new version that's come out where you can actually go through and you can choose kind of the persona that you would like.
Mm,
If you'd like to be positive and cheery, or if you'd like to be more
mm,
realistic. And I played with these things a couple of different ways. And even the more realistic version, the blunt realistic version, is
mm,
very cheery. Like,
mm,
it doesn't feel like someone's giving me hard truths and telling and
mm.
teaching me hard lessons, because the delivery feels so soft. And
Yeah, and
yeah,
ChatGPT is the only one I'm not using,
yeah.
so I wouldn't know.
It's funny because
But
I've tried it with
mm,
Claude, I've tried it with Copilot, and
mm,
I've tried the different personification pieces, getting these
mm,
pieces back and forth across. But I I think there's something to what you put into it definitely frames what you get out of it. Are there
mm.
specific prompts that you're using to try to get information, or try to get the information that sits back to you that's more effective, um, or that you found over time in terms of kind of pre-feeding it information or pre-feeding it with certain parameters to have it give you information that's more useful?
No, and that's why I think it's so uh, to me hard to give like people advice about this because I've done no customization. I never use prompts at all,
Yeah.
so I can't really say this is how I use it. I think I picked up on some just for writing. I picked up on some advice that's more like general writing advice. So help me see what the main idea is here and how should I remove the parts that's not part of it. Sort of like that, but it's not really a prompt, more like a writing guide, I think.
I think the thing that's interesting about that is I say early on in AI. I mean, it's
Mm,
really exploded in the last couple of years, but I heard a lot of people and read a lot of people saying that prompt engineering was going to be the job of the future.
mm,
And the more I engage with it, the more that I realize it is very much like just talking to another person. So if you are
yeah,
able to articulate your thoughts,
exactly.
no matter how messy they are or crazy they are, it can start to make sense of them. And it's funny how often I will just brain dump my need of sorting information into something organized,
Mm,
share it with where it needs to end up, and the feedback I get will be like, "This is incredible! Like you did such a great job organizing this." Or like we'll write articles on Substack, and people will
mm,
write in, "This is so thoughtful. I'm so glad you shared this." And and it's funny because it'll be followed by the person who's like, "Don't ever use AI to write for you." So
mm,
I mean, it prompts. I think prompts are already sort of an ancient idea, other than when you need to build out a workflow of some sort, where you need a lot of
mm,
response, a lot of
mm.
things built from a like a source piece of
Exactly.
information.
When you want a reliable result one time after another, but that's not
Right.
really what I'm after.
Yeah,
Mm,
yeah, and I don't
mm,
think most people. I mean, I think from
mm,
a like a business perspective, there
mm,
that is the case, right? They want
mm,
repeatable tasks done over and over again. But I think for most things, like what you and I are talking about, like what am I going to put on the dinner plate tonight?
mm,
What do I need to clear my head of? What thoughts are holding me back? How am I in my own way? Being able
mm,
to sort through those things and just have that objective mirror to hold up,
mm.
though it may be a carnival mirror, at least starts to give you different ways to think about these things rather than just spinning on them.
Yeah, and to me, prompts also means like you say one thing and get one thing back. when it's
Right.
really a back and forth. You need to
Yeah.
continue the conversation. You need to ask why a million times to actually understand it. And yeah, that's so you said that you need to articulate what you're really after, and that's exactly what I did. And that's what I mean by it was more about actually expressing myself than the feedback I got back, because it took so much work to knowing what I actually wanted to say.
Yeah.
So it was to AI. It could have been to another person if I had
Sure.
one available all the time that didn't have their own things to do.
Right.
It could have been writing, but I would have gone tired of it. So
Yeah, for
um,
sure. You also write about neurodivergence and how it plays
mm.
into these relationships with these machines. Can you share a little bit about what you wrote about that?
No, not really. Sorry,
No, that's fair.
I'm exploring this right now. I don't really know. But the only thing I've seen is that people with different that are neurodivergent really seem to like my content at that, and yeah, just leave it at that. I don't know
Sure, no,
more yet.
and that's
Mm,
fair because
mm,
I have never been diagnosed with anything, but
no.
I've been told that ADHD is not out of the realm of possibility,
Mm,
and so it's interesting in the context of what we're talking about
yeah.
these things where writing that big email with those organized thoughts, that's something that, in the past I would put off for a day or two, or
Mm,
waiting for my brain to get to a place where I'm like, okay, I can focus on this enough. I have the bandwidth to manage this. And now I can just say, here are the list of problems. Here are the solutions I have
mm,
to offer. I need to organize this in a way that can be, public facing, so that I can get this end result accomplished, and it's done in seconds. And I don't have
mm,
to get to that same, like, it's a very I think even emotional place that I have to be able to get
mm.
to like get the weight off and be able to move within that space. And I don't have to do that anymore. Now I can just say, here's a bunch of random nonsense, help me make sense. And it does.
Yeah.
And so I don't know if that applies to a neurodivergent brain. I'm not an expert by any means, but I've
Mm.
heard enough people now tell me that, like, that might be something you want to look into, that I'm starting to think that, like, maybe this is another clue, that maybe this is something to explore.
Yeah, I mean, from my post on anxiety, I've had multiple people reach out to me and say, like, maybe you should look into this.
Yeah.
Um, so that's where I'm at the moment.
Yeah,
But
sure, for
I
sure.
mean, I see the connection. I have this theory that what's really happening is that people who are neurodivergent are able to let go of the mask they have. With AI, they are allowed to be truly themselves. And that's exactly what I'm experiencing as well.
Great. Well, this has been awesome, Emma. I really appreciate your time. I appreciate the work that you're doing. Is there anything important that you think we've missed that you want to make sure we mention?
I think one misconception I keep hearing is that AI is always equal to outsourcing thinking. Uh, but the main point I'm trying to make is that it can also be about externalizing thoughts that are already there. So it's not
Yeah.
always this like shortcut where you used to like skip the thinking, and that's what a lot of people are afraid of, and that will certainly happen. But there seem to be this big group of people that actually use it to externalize thinking and augment themselves and yeah, just be more themselves.
How would you differentiate between outsourcing the thinking and augmenting? What do you see as the difference?
Outsourcing is like feed this prompt, write this for me without maybe being too critical about the output or just like skipping the ideas. Maybe, I mean, writing emails is a great way to use AI, but if you write those emails based on things that you actually want to say or are actually important instead of outsourcing um, AI slop just for and optimize for different reasons. It's
So
it's not a clear line.
Yeah. So sort of the difference between like write an email to Bob for me versus write an email to Bob that explains that I need this and that, and I hope that this result. Yeah.
Exactly. So that's using it as a tool to express yourself instead of just write a email that will go to 1,000 people, like selling my service. Which
Right.
I mean, it's useful as well, and people will use it that way. And it's not wrong, but I think we need to see that externalizing is also a way to use it.
All right, Emma, good stuff. Thanks so much for being here today. Really appreciate you taking the time. For those of you listening, if you've enjoyed this, you can follow Emma on Substack. There's a link to do that through the episode description for our show at brobots.me. On Substack, she writes the Overthinking Out Loud articles. Really good stuff. I hope you'll follow her, and I hope that you'll join us again next Monday morning for a brand new episode. That will also be available at brobots.me. Thanks so much. We will see you next week.